Then by 5:30, 20.
At this time, I'll call this meeting to order. Clerk of the Board, please call the roll.
Certainly, Fiscal Chair. Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Garrettson? Commissioner Granados?
Here.
Commissioner Kowalski? Commissioner Leone?
Present.
Commissioner Mirabella?
Present.
Commissioner Palmieri Muedad?
Here.
Commissioner Vice Chair Hudak? And Chair Williams.
Here.
Fiscal Chair, you have 6 commissioners present for today's fiscal meeting on the 2022 budget.
Thank you very much. Clerk of the Board, please lead us in the prayer and salute to the flag.
Humbly we ask God, the giver of peace and lover of charity, to give the entire family of nations true agreement with his will, and to grant the light of his Spirit on all who work for justice and peace. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk of the Board, please read the statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
The fiscal chair wishes to announce that pursuant to the requirements of the New Jersey State, pursuant to the requirements of NJSA Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 10 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting of the Fiscal Affairs Committee of the Union County Board of County Commissioners has been given by providing 48-hour notice to the newspapers circulating within the County of Union and designated to receive such notice, and further by posting said notice at least 48 hours prior to this meeting in the administration building, and further by filing the notice at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting with the office of the county clerk, and further by posting said notice at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting on the County of Union official website. My apologies.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Good evening. As Chair of the Fiscal Committee, I'd like to welcome all of you who joined us today at the first of 2 sessions of our 2022 committee budget hearing. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the commissioners as well as the public and attendees to hear the budget presentations from county directors who will discuss their 2021 accomplishments and their 2022 initiatives for the individual departments. On board today will be the Office of the County Clerk, the Office of the Election Board, the Department of Human Services, the Office of the Prosecutor, and the Office of the Sheriff. The new budget was introduced at the Board of County Commissioners meeting on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Thank you to County Manager Ed Oman who worked alongside his directors and made sure that he brought together to fruition the vision and expectations of this commissioner board, and made sure that he once again got us to outstanding 0% tax increase for the County of Union residents. I'd like to reiterate that there will be no public comment at this hearing. For those who are not familiar with the format of our budget sessions, please understand that this is a hearing between the Fiscal Committee, County Commissioners, and the county departments. Officials will review all the documents submitted, and the members and the budget will be introduced on April 7th. Members of the public will have a chance to speak in regards to the budget on May 12th before it is adopted. Thank you, and now let's start the budget hearings. So first, to do the budget hearing is our County Clerk, Joanne Rajapi, who's joined alongside Deputy County Clerk Clara Fernandez.
Thank
County
you.
Clerk.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to provide you with the 2021 accomplishments. The very most significant one, of course, is that we generated the largest revenue in our history last year because of the uptick in, the lower mortgage rate, I should say, and the fact that many people were moving from the cities to Union County, which is a great thing. Overall, we made $75 million in recording fees, 14.6 of which were deposited in the county fund. The balance went to the state, of course. There was a big increase in volumes for e-filing. Also, I believe, due to the pandemic, we received at least 72,000 submissions through e-filing. The other most important thing I wanted to note was the ballot envelopes. As you know, we had a large appropriation last year to purchase ballot envelopes, and thank goodness we did because of the paper shortage and the increase in paper costs this year. In fact, we have a supply that should last us several years. We also redesigned the ballot so our residents couldn't miss the yellow envelope. That was very important, and it's a window envelope, as is the redesign of the return envelope that is a window envelope with a label, so the Board of Elections can read that easily without even opening the envelope. So those two envelopes facilitate the processing of vote by mails. And we also redesigned the inner envelope, which is a peel and seal envelope. So I believe that we saved, because of ordering so many envelopes last year, we really saved costs this year in terms of, ordering more. We also, you can see that we distributed our regular election calendar. We inaugurated both in Westfield and in Elizabeth our online appointment system for passports, which has worked out exceedingly well. Everyone knows when they make an appointment, they're going to have a dedicated time and they're going to be served, especially large families, because it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for each person. So that's worked out well. We also held a notary public seminar, and we continued with the archiving of our books out of the record room. Our initiatives are to continue to advocate for additional e-filing submitters. We find that those documents that are submitted by e-filing, it's much more efficient than dealing with a paper document and handling a paper document. We have undertaken, beginning in January, a major renovation to our offices. We have started, because of the congestion in the passport office, which is extremely small, we are starting with that, and a bathroom facility for both men and women. Right now, we only have a bathroom facility for women. So men have to go somewhere else in the courthouse. We are starting this year, as you know, county committee, Republican county committee will be voted on this year. We are putting that on the back of our ballot, our mail-in ballot, to make it easier for people, because that piece of paper, that separate piece of paper we used to have when we sent the ballot out, could be misplaced or lost. So that is, hopefully, we will also circle the district that that voter is in to make it easier for them to vote, to know how to vote, which district. We're updating and publicizing the app. We will continue to preserve and archive our mortgage and deed books, back scanning, in-house, and we're continuing our outreach to our residents. So those are our initiatives for the year. As to our budget, we have two budgets, as you know. We have the county clerk operating budget, which deals basically with recording and the passports office. The addition in the budget and other expenses is about, there are two items that have increased that budget. One is the payment that is made to non-county employees who act as messengers on election night. Usually, they would go to the polling place for us and pick up the information, but because of what happened last year with the new machines, they have to wait sometimes. Sometimes they have to wait till over 9 o'clock. So that extended their hours, and we pay them an hourly rate. There's another cost that has increased, and that is a 3-year budget we have for the maintenance and wiring on our office equipment to our IBM machines. That's a maintenance contract. It comes to about $32,000 a year. So that's the increase that's represented there. As to our election budget, I'm sorry, the messengers go into the election budget, not into the county clerk's budget. That addition of $30,000 is due to the wiring and maintenance contract. The other expense increase in the election contract budget goes directly to printing costs. We can't control the cost of the paper the printer uses. That has had enormously increased this year because it's so scarce, as well as the messengers I mentioned. So that's about a $140,000 increase. Is that right?
45.
Mm-hmm. And that's it.
At this time, I'd like to ask any commissioners that have any questions. Commissioner Mirabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joanne, I know you spoke a little bit about the renovations to the layout of your office, and I know several years ago you had a very strong plan to renovate a lot of the space to make it easier for the public and the staff that work for you. How far along is that? Is this the end of it? Is it still in the middle of it?
No, we just started the project in January. You might recall that we reconfigured our record room a few years ago. We did that in-house. There was no real expense except for the help we had from the architect to draw the plans. We're taking some of that space for our passport office, our new passport office, but the project just began basically in January. So it's in phases. It's going to be done over about a 2-year period because we are working in place while they do the construction. So we've made temporary offices in part of the record room for some of our staff. The first phase that will be done is the bathrooms. That is supposed to be done by the end of April. The next part is the passport office, which should be done in September or October.
Good. Thank you for that, because I know you were very thoughtful in the planning for that space to reconfigure it to make it more useful.
Right.
So I'm glad that's on track with moving further.
Thank you.
The pandemic probably didn't help much in a way, but I think we'll pick it up from here, right? Mr. Chairman, also, I just want to make a comment that, I had a chance to meet with several county clerks last night, and I, in front of them, said that we have the best county clerk and the best clerk's office in the state, and I hope you'll share those compliments with your team.
I did.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair Williams?
Hi, I just have one question. The notaries, the individuals who come to the seminar, do you keep track of how many actually follow through and become notaries? So how many?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a split, Chair. Some are there because they want to become notaries.
Okay.
Some are there because they want to renew their notary or they want to update their education. Now, there was a new notary law that passed last year. It mandates education. Before that, there was no education. And many of these notaries really didn't know about keeping log books and the importance of doing a simple thing as keeping a log book because they might be called to court on a signature. So the new law mandates it, and as of yet, the Treasury Department has not set out criteria for the education program. The county clerks have requested that we be have the ability to teach these courses, but as of yet, we're waiting for the exact recommendations of criteria for the course.
And do you do just, it's a seminar, do you do just one a year?
No,
Or
we
you
normally do two.
At least two, right?
At least
Okay.
two, and there's a waiting list. They are very popular, very popular.
Is there a way you could do more, like quarterly?
Yes, we could, but what we do is we usually have an attorney to assist us with that, and usually a county attorney has been able to help us with that.
Okay.
But we want to wait to see what the Treasury, because they're mandated to take this course, we want to make sure that we comply with the law and the
Gotcha.
regulations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Clerk, I also want to acknowledge that Vice Chairman Hudak is joining for the meeting.
Duly noted.
And with that said, County Manager Oman?
Thank you, Fiscal Chair. I just want to thank Joanne. It was a lot of work to get this budget to zero. I talked about it during our last meeting. All the department heads and the constitutionals were a great help. It wasn't always pleasant conversations to try to find these cuts, but it was a truly team effort, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Jimmy.
Once again, like County Manager said, we truly appreciate all the hard work that you and your staff are doing for us, Joanne.
And I appreciate the support that you give us. Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
With that said, I'd like to call upon Administrator Nicole Dorado from the Office of the Election Board. Good evening. How you doing,
Hi.
Nicole?
I'm well. How's everybody tonight?
Doing good.
Good.
Thank you for being here, and you can start whenever you want to.
We're ready. So thank you for having me and for considering the budget for the election board for 2022. To start off with our accomplishments, I have to say one of our greatest accomplishments last year was the first time ever early voting. When we see other states throughout the country rolling in, phasing it in over a period of years, New Jersey got it done in 6 months, just in time for the gubernatorial election, for the general election. So we had quite a presence on the New Jersey early voting committee. I was appointed to the working committee. I was co-chair of the budget committee. Our election technology supervisor was appointed as co-chair of the voting machine committee and as a working member of the electronic poll book committee. We were also on the legal and legislative committee and the timelines committee. So we were well represented and we were in the know pretty much every step of the way. So we opened 7 early voting sites last year. Elizabeth, Plainfield, Rahway, Roselle, Union, New Providence, and Cranford. We developed security and security plans. We crafted policies and procedures, and we were very much involved in that on the state level. So a lot of what we did was mirrored in other counties. So we had 9 days of early voting, included a huge procurement project, 99 new voting machines, 1,034 electronic poll books, and of course, we had to work with certain vendors to ensure connectivity amongst the entire county, all 9 locations for the entire duration of early voting to ensure that nobody voted twice. We had 168 poll workers, which included 2 super poll workers at every location, which we trained in advance of early voting. I talked briefly about the procurement of the electronic poll books. This was a statutory rollout statewide in response to early voting. It's the only way really to ensure that nobody was voting twice and every polling place on election day had the most current voter file in front of them. Otherwise, voters, like I said, could have voted twice. We wouldn't have known that they received an absentee ballot the Monday before Election Day. It facilitated that process. Nope, that's okay. We had to find warehouse space to house all of these locations with adequate power supply and security to be able to program, charge over 1,000 pieces of equipment simultaneously. We developed security protocols for early voting and for Election Day with the EPBs. We had 76 used in early voting, 862 were used on Election Day. All staff were trained to set up, activate, process voters, and close down the electronic poll books so that we were able to assist all of the phone calls that came in, as you can imagine, at 8 o'clock on Election Day. I would say, all in all, it went well. Of course, it was new technology, and there were bumps in the road, but all in all, it was a very successful rollout. We had 4 elections last year. The June primary, we had the Rahway Special School election in September. We had the November general election, which included, of course, early voting. We had our Hillside runoff election. We piloted for the first time the electronic poll books in Rahway, anticipating that we would need them for the general election. It turned out to be a very, very worthwhile exercise. We learned a lot of information about how to train the poll workers and what sort of equipment that we would need on election day. What kind of, I know it sounds silly, but even right down to what kind of extension cord we would need to provide, because each poll book has 2 outlets. It needs 2 outlets for each poll book. So at one district, you need 4, and how are you going to plug all this in? And a lot of gyms don't have the power supply that you need in a regular polling location. So, even something down to that detail, we made sure we didn't have those hiccups on general election day. The secure Dropbox pickups started in 2020 as a result of our all mail-in election. We have 24 Dropboxes county-wide. They are under 24/7 surveillance. And because of the requirement that they have to be available 45 days prior to Election Day, as soon as vote-by-mail ballots go out, our Dropboxes were open for 144 days last year, which means for 144 days we did daily pickups. We have 2 teams that leave at 8:30 in the morning. They're escorted by county police officers. We have 2 routes. It takes about 3.5 hours to complete each route. We are thankful legislation changed this year. So for Rahway, for example, we had to open every box for one Rahway election and for one Hillside election. So we were going to Summit because we had to switch out an empty box. So that legislation changed. So if we have any more local elections like that, we'll be able to pick and choose which boxes open. But those are, that includes Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, in terms of the duration of when we were open for our drop boxes. Thank you. So poll worker training. We trained 1,700 poll workers in person prior to the general election. It's really amazing that none of us got sick. But you see in the pictures there, we are all wearing our masks. We hosted 42 in-person training sessions. We hosted 7 equipment open houses where we really just have the equipment there with the instructions that will be provided on Election Day. And we invite the poll workers to come in and play with the machines, set them up, activate them, take them down, where they don't have to listen to a formal presentation. They're very popular. We get a huge turnout every time we have one. We usually end up hosting last-minute ones just before Election Day. We had 7 early voting training sessions. They were location-specific. We trained each of the early voting sites as a team. We basically said, these are the people that you're going to spend more time with than your families over the next 9 days. So, and you are hearing the same thing out of my mouth as everybody else is. So, we know exactly what's going to happen on Election Day. So last year, just prior to the primary election, on Thursday night before the primary, the governor increased the pay rate to $400 because statewide, we couldn't hire poll workers. He activated the National Guard. We had National Guardsmen and women serving as poll workers on Election Day. The weekend of before Election Day, we hired over 500 poll workers. And if it was not for the online virtual poll worker training that we put in place in March, there's no way we could have hired those people prior to Election Day. It just couldn't have happened. So that was another huge accomplishment, was having the online poll worker training. Not having the foresight of a terrible turnout for poll workers, and just having that vehicle available to us was really outstanding. We had a similar situation going into the general election, although we had about 4 weeks to prepare with the raise increase. We are hopeful that we're going to see a permanent legislative increase this year. We continue to live stream the tally process for continued transparency in the ballot counting process. This was something that we started during COVID when we were limiting public access to our tally center. We live stream on our website when we are opening and counting vote by mail ballots and provisional ballots. We were able to automate the receipt of vote by mail ballots this year, which was awesome. We have a mail machine. It reads the barcode of the voter's ID right into an Excel file, which is bulk uploaded into the state voter registration system. So essentially every day around noon, depending on when the post office is ready for us to pick up the mail, voters can go to Track My Ballot, and they have real-time information that we received their ballot on that day. In the general election last year, we processed 29,700 vote-by-mail ballots, which prior to 2020 was the most significant number we've processed. In terms of voter registration activity, we had over 18,600 new voters last year, over 200,000 voter profile updates, which includes residence changes. Unfortunately, our voter friends who pass away, move out of county, move into county, signature updates, disenfranchisements, and we continue to work through online voter registration, which was new also in 2020. So looking forward to this year, and our goals and objectives for 2022. Of course, we're going to continue early voting. This year, for the first time, we'll have early voting in the primary, which is June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday prior to Election Day. We will still have our 9 days of early voting prior to the general election, October 29th through November 6th. While we will have some location changes, which I think will make serving our voters a better experience, we are staying in the same towns. So we will be in Cranford, Elizabeth, Plainfield, Rahway, Roselle, Union, and New Providence. So, for example, we are moving to a larger room at Union County College in Cranford because that was our highest turnout location last year. We're actually moving to Union County College campus in Plainfield. The Board of Ed building the ADA compliance was a struggle, right? So we made it work, but this is definitely a better solution for us. Let's see, again, pending legislation, we are praying for an increase in the poll worker pay. So that will mean more training. I hope new poll workers. I hope to see more technically savvy poll workers as a result of the pay increase. We are updating our virtual training platform, which was actually part of the original contract to have like a production crew come and shoot a more interactive program similar to what we see with the training programs here in the county. But because of COVID, we had to put that off, so we're going to take care of that this year. We're going to, although continue to advocate for school closures for the primary and general election, we will continue to seek alternates to polling locations. And so far with the locations that we've certified this year, we are out of 6 schools that we were previously in, and we have decreased our presence in one of our schools. So that is a continued ongoing effort. Following the 2020 census, we are obligated to redistrict, right? So we got through our congressional redistricting. We had to work on our rewarding of the towns that have wards to make sure that population is properly represented amongst the wards throughout a town. Of the 10 towns that have wards, 7 were, we had line changes. We are working on redistricting within those towns. So the towns that will see changes in are Elizabeth, Clark, Plainfield, Rahway, Roselle Park, and Linden. And we're going to look to review other towns over the summer. The statute dictates turnout less than 250 in 2 consecutive general elections. You would consolidate district, and anything over 750, you would split and have more districts. So we're going to be looking at that to ease the voter experience over the summer. We're going to continue, or I should say restart, our public outreach. Continue, the publicizing, and hopefully continue to make our Dropboxes a successful alternate to the post office. And we're going to continue, of course, to comply with all of the laws that were put into place during COVID and not going away. So the Ballot Cure Law, which gives a voter up to 48 hours before certification to cure a signature deficiency. Process the Dropbox ballots, which we pick up on election night but are processed the next day. Extended receipt of the vote by mail ballots by mail, so it's 48 hours without a postmark, 6 days with a postmark. All of these things delay the processing of vote by mail ballots and delay the processing of provisional ballots, which result in delayed final election results, which was something we heard a lot about last year. But there is, real reasons behind why that happened. We're going to continue to train our poll workers. Hopefully, the electronic poll book process, packing up on election night will continue to be a smoother process the more our poll workers become familiar with the technology. So I am very happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Just want to start off by saying you continue to do an amazing job, you and your staff, especially during COVID. We know that you are always busy, so continuously making sure that questions are answered by residents, by individuals who are for election, and also making sure that everyone has the smoothest experience when they visit the polling locations. So I just want to start with that.
Thank you.
And in reference to legislation, I know you mentioned before, so what is it being proposed to increase to compared to now?
$300.
$300. And currently it's at?
$200.
$200, so it's $100 more,
Yes.
which is great, okay.
It has been $200 for over 20 years.
Wow.
And, even after, so $400 was the rate in the primary, and a lot of us were skeptical that we would get the turnout that we need at $300 after we just paid poll workers $400. But we really, $300 is the number. People came out for $300. So we're really hopeful to see that permanently going forward.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the Chair Williams?
Yeah, just one. Going back to the polling locations and your advocacy for school closures. And you're also seeking alternate locations to eventually move the elections out of school. Are those connected? For example, if all the polling locations were removed from schools, would you still be advocating for school closures on those days? Or is it connected to the school day and children and so forth?
So I have kids in the public school system, right? So having anybody walking in and out of a school where you can't ask for ID is a little unsettling. So when I started, that was something that I advocated for, close the schools. It's hard to relocate all of our locations. It will never happen.
Okay.
Because you don't have parking at a lot of locations, right? They're not ADA compliant. They're older buildings. They don't have the space. So It's hard to do it across the board. And statewide, to start with the primary and the general election, I think would be a great start. Even if we saw in-service professional development days in school, that would be a great start. But logistically,
Yeah.
because of the statutory requirements for a polling place, if it's not within the district, then you can't use a location as a polling place,
Gotcha.
unless it's a government building.
Okay.
Then you can go outside of the district. You can't just rent out the American Legion.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So there are statutory constraints.
Okay.
So
No,
it's a.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're constantly looking for the superintendents to work with us and for the municipal clerks to offer alternatives where there are some.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Mirabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I echo the chairman's thoughts on your staff and your work, particularly the last couple of years, but throughout your tenure there. Just one question, Nicole, on poll workers. I see that the expected, but I might have missed this, tell me if it's true, but last year's expenditures were $660,000. This year expected to be $200,000. Why is that again?
So the, pursuant to statute, there is a state reimbursement for the poll worker pay. The county is responsible for $75 paid to every poll worker, and then the state reimburses the county $125. In the event that the pay rate goes up, the state will reimburse $225, and the county will be responsible for $75. So we worked with the county manager and Director Taylor to consider moving that state reimbursable part out of our salary and wage budget and into an account that is identified as an appropriation by the state.
It's the grants line, I believe, right, Director?
Yes.
Yep.
How is that advantageous to the county?
If I may, through you, Chairman. Through you, Chairman, if you take a look at the poll workers line, last year we budgeted $780,000, but we only spent $660,000. Of that amount is the full amount that we have to pay for poll workers. So even though we get reimbursed, we still have to raise in our budget the $780,000, or in this case, the amount expended, the $660,000. If we move it to the grant fund, all we're raising is the local share, and the state share will go into the grant fund, and we'll pay employees out of the grant fund, thereby alleviating having to raise taxes arbitrarily, even though we don't know how many poll workers we'll get on an annual basis.
So it's like anticipating that revenue.
It is. It's a special item of revenue. You don't need a award letter. We know that the state has a legal obligation to reimburse us the $125,000.
Well, makes sense now, thank
Excuse me,
you.
$125.
Anyone else? Vice Chair Hudak?
Thank you, Chair. And I do have more of a Board of Elections question, but I have a follow-up question. In terms of that thinking, is that a process that we're seeing across the board, or is this just a unique reimbursement situation with the state, where we're taking the money out of a salary line item and moving into a grant line item, or is it just really Board of Elections has such a unique reimbursement structure?
It's unique to the Board of Elections primarily because there is still a need for poll workers, but on any given year, we may not fill the entire need that she has. So as a result, we're raising that money in the taxes without having any benefit of the service. So moving it into the grant fund essentially saves us having to raise it in the tax levy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Director. I had a wonky question to ask, so thank you for indulging me. Nicole. Don't want to take the shine off your star. I just wanted to get a sense. Obviously, pre-COVID, we were heading towards more alternative voting methods, vote by mail, the voting at the clerk's office, and things of that nature, and it was starting to increase. And then obviously, COVID rewrote the rules. Where are we at, like, just say percentage-wise versus in person in a general? Let's go focus on the general election. In person participation versus whether it's early voting or vote by mail, how is the pie now being divided?
So in the 2021 general election, turnout was approximately, I want to say 32%, right? And we had just under 30 vote-by-mail ballots. Just over 110,000 voters came out to vote. So I guess that's about 30% of the voters voted by mail. The voter registration form now has an option for voters to select whether or not they want to receive a vote-by-mail ballot right there on the voter registration form. So they don't have to take the extra step to opt into voting by mail.
Is there any, and if you don't have any data yet, that's fine, but it's something I'd be curious to know as people are registering now, if they're opting in since it's more convenient.
They are. I don't have the percentage. I don't know that percentage of how many new registrants are opting in, but we are seeing a lot of people who were convenienced. They really thought it was a convenience in 2020 to sit at their kitchen table and fill out their vote-by-mail ballot rather than one day on election day, with more publications, more voter outreach, more voter education. I'm really hoping that early voting will take off.
Yeah.
We only saw about 10,000 voters in early voting in the general election. As successful as it was, I would have loved to have seen a higher turnout. It's just not a part of our culture yet. And until it is, I don't know that we can truly gauge.
30% in a gubernatorial year, that's a pretty significant switch. Not the early voting,
You mean
but
vote by mail.
mail, but just in taking advantage of other, avenues to voting, leading to more participation, I think is just an exciting development on the whole. I guess, and again, not necessarily something for this budget. I'm just kind of curious how, long-term the investment of the Board of Elections is going to be into its day of infrastructure versus trying to shore up some of these early voting, whether it's vote by mail or it's, an early voting operation. I'll be fascinated to see how that all develops.
Fortunately, this board has been very supportive, and we have invested in our technological infrastructure. Brand new voting machines starting in 2018 and 2019, new paper tabulation, and now electronic poll books. So everything is essentially new. The technology is there, the security is there. So I see us being able to, I don't know what more they could throw at us, but in terms of when you see other states rolling back voters' rights and New Jersey is not, that's something to be proud of, and the investment is in our rights. It's in voters' rights. And
Yeah, no,
we're there.
absolutely, and also with the transparency aspect, with the the videotaping of the tabulation, streaming it, I think that's a very good thing as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Commissioner Palmieri Muedad.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to just thank you and your department for all of their hard work. I'm just curious, with all of the extending of the early voting, in terms of poll workers, is there any additional outreach we plan to do? Because I know poll workers is maybe even like a generational thing. I know that there's been people that have done it for years and years, and I guess I'm kind of curious who were the people that you targeted this year, and if there's any other groups of people, or I know something we talked about a long time ago was going into the colleges maybe and trying to recruit poll workers that way, but I'm just curious because I know with all of these extra polling days, we're going to need extra help.
So surprisingly, I was concerned that we would not be able to staff early voting. It's a huge commitment away from family. It's 12 hours, 10 hours on Sundays, but 12 hours for 9 days, that's huge. It was staffed almost immediately. Although we're cutting back on our poll workers for early voting, the turnout just wasn't there last year in a gubernatorial election. I don't see it being there this year. with the exception of maybe the 7th Congressional. You know, we're increasing our poll workers there. But that was the easiest to staff. The poll workers working early voting made a lot of money. So for 9 days, whether they took a vacation day, you know, they took vacation days from their jobs, they made a significant amount of money. By Monday morning, they were already earning overtime because anything over 40 hours is time and a half. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, and then Monday afternoon through the following Friday, based on our pay schedule, you're on overtime. That's, you know, that's significant, all reimbursed by the state, parenthetically. But, you know, so that was easy. Our poll worker fleet now, you know, we've reached out to try and get a sense of where we're going to be for the primary. A lot of the responses that are coming back are, yes, we'll be there, but not for $200. So I'm almost hesitant to, you know, we're reaching out to our current fleet and for now, and then really start pushing, you know, a campaign, I'd say in the next month or so. Okay.
Commissioner Baker, then followed by Commissioner Rasmus.
Yeah, I had a question about the seasonal work, the seasonal, I might have missed this in your presentation already, but the budget in 2021 was $108,000, but you're projecting $140 for 2022. Can you explain that a little more clearly?
Yes, sir. So we have a couple of things. One, the minimum wage rate went up, so we had to account for that increase in minimum wage. A lot of the majority of our seasonals were making minimum wage. We hire our seasonals, they're actually starting on Monday, and they will work through the middle of June, and then they'll come back just before Labor Day and work until the end of the year. So we are seeing an increase in work. We're seeing an increase in vote by mail ballots, provisional ballots, the trainings. We're doing a lot of trainings with our poll workers. It's important. So we try to minimize overtime by using seasonal employees where we can. So for example, when we go out and we do our drop boxes, instead of putting 4 full-time employees on the vans, we use 2 full-time employees for chain of custody purposes, and then 2 seasonals to help. So instead of earning, you know, spending the overtime on 4 full-time employees, we're doing it at a seasonal rate. We just, I'd say in the last 3 weeks, wrapped up the general election. It takes a long time to come off of a general election. And if we get as much help as possible during the process when our seasonal employees are here, work gets done more expeditiously in the office. We're seeing an increase in registration. We're seeing an increase just in voter profile updates. So all of that is work that's either done on overtime or with our seasonal employees.
Okay. Could you, based on past knowledge and experience and projecting forward, would you be able to say how many seasonal employees you would need, more or less, or like to have?
So we hire between 10 and 12. We will look to hire folks who can help us in the warehouse. We found that we will definitely need more help in the electronic poll book warehouse, you know, and getting them ready for Election Day. You know, once the election profile has been programmed and created, that election has to be loaded individually onto every single electronic poll book. And then the voter profile has to be loaded onto every single poll book. And it's a manual, individual process. We don't trust that, 353,000 voters will be loaded onto a device without, for example, a wireless interruption that might cause a problem with the voter profile on the electronic poll book, right? So we do that manually, and we make sure that we have checks and balances along the way. So those are the sorts of things that we will also need our seasonal employees to help with under the direction of our full-time staff.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Leon?
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for all your hard work and your department. I have a simple question. The ballot drop boxes, is there a limit as to how many votes by mails can you drop in them? I know they have cameras. There's 24 of them, you said, around the county.
Yes.
A person that goes and drops off this ballot, is there a limit as to how many?
So the messenger law still applies.
Okay.
Or the bearer law, I'm sorry.
Right.
The bearer law still applies. So it's 3. Your own ballot, you are not the bearer of your own ballot
So
because
that
you are the
doesn't count.
voter. However, last year, there was a new law that expanded that. So if you have 4 people in your house, you can bring it for your family members with the same last name living at the same address.
Okay.
And you have to be, if you come into our office, you have to be able to show us ID. But when you fill out the bearer portion on the vote by mail envelope, we look for that. And that used to be a problem in our rehab centers where the social workers would serve as a bearer for a lot of the residents.
Yes.
But then the first 3 are the only ones that get counted and the rest are rejected. We did a huge education campaign and that hasn't happened, and we reach out to the new social workers every year prior to Election Day. So we haven't seen that happen, but that is what happens when the bearer laws are exceeded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any more questions? Seeing none, once again, thank you very much,
Thank
Administrator
you.
Dorado, for being here
Thank
and
you.
presenting to us.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
With that said, I'd like to call upon the Department of Human Services, Director Debbie Ann Anderson, and Assistant Director Melissa Lispanase.
Seriously, show us something.
How you doing, Director?
Good evening, Chair
Good
and
evening.
members of the board.
Thank you. You can start your presentation whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Are we going to do questions after or?
Questions
as we go?
afterwards.
Okay, good.
Well, if any time any commissioner has a question, they're more than welcome to ask any questions they have, but for the most part, we've been asking questions at the very end.
So 2021 was a interesting year for the Department of Human Services, not just the COVID journey, but the IDA journey. But the percentage of population that we served was actually 45% of Union County residents on duplicated numbers. That's about 12 to 13% increase through pre-COVID numbers. So 45% of the population we served. In 2022, our initiatives going to focus on the seamless coordination of a coordinated entry. Should be no wrong door when it comes to the homelessness or individuals calling to get services from our department. Right now, it's a little scattered. We're trying to make it more uniformed, and that is really a HUD mandate that we did not do in the previous years, but we're making sure we're doing it this year. The other one is creating a feasibility study. We need to update our data based on our needs assessment that we did in 2020. That looks at what does post-COVID look like for the department and how do we respond to those. And that will also include the diversity and equity and inclusion concept across the department. So right now in the Office of the Director, there are 9 individuals. and one transfer from AJC into, that was more county dollars, that's coming into the department to do special projects and legislative affairs for the department.
Is there any questions from the Commissioner Board in reference to the Director's Office budget? Seeing none, we continue on, Director.
For aging in 2021, again, Ida was a huge hurdle because our kitchen was flooded out, so we lost that in September. We had to adjust, but these are just the statistics, how many meals due to COVID. Also knowing that the congregate sites were closed still in 2021. Not a lot of the senior community centers opened up. They're just starting to open up now. So our initiatives for 2022 is really looking at, we are going to receive some grant dollars for from the federal government to, again, increase the outreach efforts for vaccination. What's the fact sheets? As you see, Pfizer is recommending another 4th shot. We'll see what that looks like for everyone above 65. Another challenge that we're seeing is there's a lot of individuals coming into Union County in the 65 plus that are Haitian Creole, that are not accustomed to, it's their cultural diverse population, and how do they access resources and services. So the team will be working a lot with those nonprofit providers that serve to service that population. And the big thing is by the first week of April, in partnership with the Sheriff's Department, well, Sheriff's Office, we're going to be opening our kitchen at the jail next door for us to really be able to service the congregate sites, and we're starting that transition now.
Can I?
That said, is there any questions from the Commission Board in reference to aging budget? Commissioner Baker?
If I may, the sites for, you say you're making a transition to use the old jail space?
Yes.
You're transitioning that to become more a permanent location to provide meals to the congregate sites, or is that just?
County Manager Oatman?
Yeah, I can answer that. Commissioner, what happened during the last hurricane, our Meals on Wheels location was wiped out.
Yeah.
So to prepare the meals for those in need, we're actually repurposing our jail. It's a big empty building with a big modern kitchen.
Right.
We're going to be able to cook the meals in there to deliver out to the community, because our site in Linden's under, it's going to be a while, right?
It's going to, yeah, it's probably going to be another year. And what we have done, we've paid a contractor to do the cooking. The drivers still have to go and pick up the food, but we paid someone else to do it. It will be more cost-saving measure and not utilizing a lot of the grant dollars to bring it back in-house.
Yeah, it's using a facility we have,
Yeah.
an existing
All
facility.
right, well, that makes practical sense. All right. Let me just ask you one other thing, in case I missed this. You said about the reopening of the congregate nutritional sites safely for the residents. That's going to be an initiative for 2022? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, our initiative to, a lot of our senior center contacts have reached out to us. They're ready. Because again, due to COVID, socialization, lack thereof for the senior population has been a challenge. Right. So we are working in partnership with the different communities across the county to make sure that, one, it's safe for the residents, and two, we can deliver on expectations.
Okay, I was going to ask about what steps you were going to
so each
take to see that these congregate sites were safer or safe to reopen.
We have site managers that it's part-time, that actually, and our nutritionists that go to each location to see that there is, on the food safety, that's not a problem.
Okay.
But again, in the social distancing is no longer really a huge requirement, but sanitation is, and how you sterilize and et cetera. So that's also something that the centers are responsible for. We're bringing in the food, but the centers know the checklist of what they need for the safety parameters.
Okay.
Just adding to that also, there's a lot of centers that currently even have like temperature checks when you walk into the building. They're only allowing a certain amount of individuals in the building at a certain time due to still being worrisome of the whole COVID restrictions, et cetera.
Okay.
County Manager Oatman?
Back to the jail, I also want to thank Director Graziano, Sheriff Corvelli, and Director Charles for making that possible, because it is still a corrections facility.
Yes.
So they were instrumental in helping us turn it over for civilian use. So they're not here, but thanks to them also.
I hope the food would be better for the seniors than they were for the kids.
Yes, just a quick question. Sorry. So the number of meals that are going to be prepared, is that for 2021, it was over 260,000. Do we expect the same number, or is the number going to be higher?
It's going to be a little bit higher because we were a little limited in what we could do with the provider, but now it's going to go back to normal. So it's about, in a good year, is about over 400,000 meals. Yeah, and more adding every single day.
Right.
There's a lot more signups for Meals on Wheels programming.
Okay, well, I'm so glad to hear that we're going to be transitioning there, because I think that's a great idea.
Also, Clerk of the Board, I'll acknowledge that Commissioner Angela Gerritsen's in attendance also.
Fiscal Chair, duly noted.
Cool. Any other questions from the Commissioner Board? Nothing. You can move on to your next division.
In 2021, for the Youth Services Division, expansion on the Youth Forward programming with the American Job Center. So that's working with youth 16 to 24, providing them resources to in-school and out-of-school jobs, mentoring, tutoring, et cetera, based on the WIOA grant, but it's really the Youth Services team. So in 2021, even with COVID, they did 75 youth in a virtual environment, life skills, education, work experience, and et cetera. So that was their 2021. In 2022, for the initiatives for youth services, it has come to our attention with, a lot of conversation with Union County superintendent and a lot of superintendents, is that there's a challenge with the mental health in our response team throughout the county. So we are looking to expand the Family Crisis Intervention Unit in Union County to become more of a 24-hour response team. We know that the needs are down to 8 years old, from 8 years old and be up, that needs resources and services. Also, the division is looking to do more of an assessment at 18 to 24. This population is transitioning to adulthood, and do we have the resources needed for them to make successful adults as they transition in?
Thank you.
With that said, in reference to the Office of Youth Services budget, does any Commissioner Palmieri move that?
Just in terms of expanding the 24 to be a 24-hour youth response team, what will that need to include?
Well, the request is looking for a mental health specialist to come on board that is more trauma-informed, youth-informed. Right now, we have just a generalist, but we're looking for a targeted specialist to come on to the team that will work in conjunction with what the schools have already to build a system of response. Because some of the challenges are that, say, for example, someone in Summit and the western end really have challenges coming to the eastern end if their kid gets referred to Trinitas. What can we do? How do we build a system to do that? And also bringing in our mental health providers and finding some additional funding resources for them as well. So it's really going to take a specialist and a coordinator to build a system with the school, so everyone is at the same table to make it happen. But we're receiving anywhere from 70 to 100 calls a week for families that are looking for resources that we kind of don't really have right now in Union County. So trying to respond to that.
Commissioner Mirabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So speaking of
So the
youth
next one will
services
come
and
up.
a building for youth services, can you
So
give an
when we move
update
on to the
on that? I know it used to be in Linden, the old building. I don't know how old that's been, how far back that goes, but I know there was some talk about a renovated site or a new site. Is there any status of that?
Yeah, we were successful in doing that. The youth services offices are in the Al Bender building, and it's been 2 years. Almost 3 years, like 2019. Yeah, right before COVID, and they moved in. So has been very well received by the parents that are going there and by the youth.
Okay, I guess there's a longer-term strategy than after, post, that space. No, we don't want to be commerce. Got it. Thank you. So all these people put out.
Any other questions from Commissioner Board? Commissioner Leon?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for all your hard work. You're nonstop. Thank you.
It's a teamwork. It's definitely my team. I have a great team.
Commissioner Baker?
I'm just kind of curious, looking at the expansion of the Family Crisis Intervention Union to include a 24-hour youth services response or youth response team. What would it take to gear that up? I'm not sure how do you.
So
what's involved in that?
So right now, we need the staffing. That's the specialists to do that. Right, we have a family crisis unit already, but they're dealing with more so 16 to 24-year-olds.
All right.
The need for Union County is to go as young as 8. So we don't have a specialist right now to do that. So one, we have to first is hire someone that's in the budget now, and then build a program to, so our response team, when a family call or parent call, no matter what time of night,
Yeah.
they respond to, like in pairs, they go to a home or they go to a common area that they meet up to immediately do intervention. And then if they need to call the crisis, line with Trinitas, and then Trinitas comes out, they wait and they sit with the family that's in crisis, and then they have a smooth transition if it's Trinitas or whomever is called.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if there was going to be, if that needed more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, or, how many people that would involve to expand to this 24-hour crisis intervention.
Yeah.
And the need right now is more mental health down to the age of about 8,
Yes.
you're saying. Okay. All right.
And for many of us, when we visited the different schools during Read Across America Week, that was a lot of concerns of the principals and teacher staff in reference to some of the younger students having that whole mental issues due to COVID, and something that County Superintendent Paul Mary has been strongly pushing for in consultation with the superintendents across the County of Union. Anyone else? That's it. Next part. Thank you.
In 2021, for the Workforce Development American Job Centers, a coordination of job fairs with 50 registered employees, over 1,000 job seekers. In-person services resumed earlier than Department of Labor. So the team came back in October of last year prior to service our residents, because unemployment was on it's an outstanding number of people unemployed in Union County, and about 200 laptops were deployed to meet the digital divide demand. Could not have done that without the support of the board and also the county manager, deputy county manager, to make sure digital divide was being addressed in the county due to COVID. In 2022, we're looking to launch the Community Navigator program. It's more of a one-on-one hand-holding program to work with the unemployed residents when they come in, to help guide them through our process and from start to finish, so that they will be the connector of the dots. If they need social services, we could help them to get there and to stay in our WIOA program and finish and be successful, not just training, be in a job that provides a livable wage, so that they could cycle off of the benefits. That's the goal. And then working with partners to develop apprenticeship programs, working with the Workforce Development Board, and doing a lot more on-the-job training.
Any questions from the Commissioner Board? Commissioner Garrettson?
Thank you so much, Chair. Is there a program that you're modeling this Community Navigator after? Is this program modeled after another program?
Not in the state of New Jersey.
Which state?
So the program is modeled after what they're doing in Colorado, Pennsylvania, Illinois,
We'll
and
have to go to Colorado and check it out.
We sure do. Boulder. But they're responding to how do you, the unemployment rate that's a certain percentage, how do you get people back to work? And how do you keep them motivated in the government-funded programs of WIOA? It's a very difficult thing to do, but if you have that one-on-one, not just the case management, but if you have a one-on-one to guide you through the journey, they're seeing much more success there, because COVID is it's that barrier, and then losing your job and not going back to work, because again, federal government did a great job in infusing dollars if you did get your unemployment. You got more money, but most of the people, if you were a restaurant worker or whatever, that's the first time in their lives they've made above minimum wage being unemployment. So it created a system that now we want people to go back to work, they're not going back to work because if they're demanding much more in pay than in prior. So it created some kind of system, and having those community navigators is navigating through those nuances to get them to the end result and getting them back employed.
Sounds exciting.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Commissioner Baker?
Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of, you can say excited, but I look forward to the development of apprenticeship programs. You're talking about engaging more union-type jobs? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, I'm the county manager, deputy county manager myself, and we've been working with a lot of our workforce development board members, which are union members of building trades, plumbing, electrical.
Yeah.
Those partners with Commissioner Granados as lead to really start building those apprenticeship programs. We have great partners, but we have to put them into work and helping us getting people employed. And if they have projects, why not? Because people are like college, but that college track, it may not be for everyone.
Right.
And what does apprenticeship programs do? They're like, you get into construction, you get into plumbing, et cetera. Eventually it's a lot of money, and they are strong partners of the county, so why not work in a partnership to create jobs and other experiences for our residents?
No, I agree, and I think it behooves us to begin to really explore aggressively, those avenues to get more of the youth that are not college bound into these apprenticeship programs, which leads to journeyman programs, which leads to certification in a particular trade. So I think that's a great idea, and I wish you a lot of success in that.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker, but truly, it's like, the chair is laughing because it's a kind of mandate that he's kind of put on. It's our marching orders. So,
Team effort.
So we're working in conjunction, so I am excited too. It's different opportunities.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Just to mention to that too, I definitely want to acknowledge Deputy County Manager, and yourself, Director Anderson, that we're all working together to make sure that we have new members of the Workforce Development Board who represent large companies like Amazon, like Port Authority, who's a new member to the Workforce Board, in making sure we're attracting new employers to come hire individuals from Union County and create those apprenticeship programs as we build Terminal 1 at Newark Airport, et cetera. So it's definitely been a team effort, indeed.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good.
Go ahead, Director Anderson.
On the individual and family support services for the division in 2021, the highlight is this division focused on the food distribution with all other county leadership, county departments, but they took the lead. We aided IDA families. The ones that we provided service to was 71 families, but the ones that actually we served altogether was over 150 families, over 500 people. Launched a Fresh Start program that provide mobile showers, laundry services due to our previous chair, Mayor Bella's initiative. So those are the things that were accomplished in 2021. In 2022, again, the theme with the Chair Williams' initiative Connections is really looking at the mobile outreach for mental health. for all, from children and adults, and, basically having fan service, et cetera, drive through the county and is being able to respond. Because, making that stigma-free mental health first aid trainings, it goes across the board, as it's very important, because, you never know when a police officer may stop someone, you don't know if they're in mental health crisis, how do we respond? So making sure that training is going a long way. Partnering with the American Job Center to do the special needs, disabilities and special needs job fair. We were funded by Kessler to do that, so in partnership with the American Job Center and Office for Persons with Disabilities and Special Needs, that's what one of our initiatives we'll be doing this year.
Any questions?
From the Commissioner Board? Just want to make sure we point out one specific number that you may mention in reference to your 2021 accomplishments. Totaling 4.1 million meals were provided to residents across the County of Union who were in need, who were struggling, who were facing tough times. And this continues to show how, not only the Department of Human Services, but the county together continues to come together in making sure we're providing services and providing the necessary help for our residents when they have times of trouble. Anyone else? That said, continue on, please.
2021 accomplishments for paratransit. So again, it was COVID, so not a lot of time. We had only 48,000 riderships due to COVID. Not a lot of people were utilizing it. The 22 route shuttle, and then where we received over 1.9 in grants and Medicaid reimbursement and fees. So our focus in 2022 is really to expand our ridership, because pre-COVID, we were like at 171,000 rides, and it dropped to 48,000. So we have a lot of work to do in getting back our residents to come on paratransit. The safety's there, so a lot of publicity, outreach, and shifting the program a lot more, because the need is there. It's just that we just have to get out there. And also diversifying our funding stream for how we'll find additional dollars for medical appointments, vaccination, et cetera, and increasing that advertising dollar revenue.
Any questions?
Commissioner Mirabella?
Just one quick question. Director, I know it's very difficult to find drivers these days, bus drivers, obviously with that reduction in the amount of rides, there's less buses on the road, but are you noticing through paratransit there's a difficulty hiring drivers or retaining them?
Right now, a lot of our paratransit drivers, this could be their after retirement job, so we've been good with that, but it was following the protocols of COVID and getting vaccinated, and
Where's your ID?
it's a lot. It's been an uphill battle, so that was a challenge, but also it was the trust. So in paratransit, we have the occupational health. They would use our services, but the most vulnerable populations were not utilizing our services because of COVID. So now those contracts are coming back online. We would take those clients to their work assignments or medical appointments. So now those contracts are going back live, and then we have contracts with the FQHC if someone is going to get dialysis over there. So now it was dormant in 2021, so now they're all coming back online, Sage, et cetera, who would need paratransit. So hopefully the riderships will go up with that as well.
Good luck putting that back together, because I know it's a valuable service that our residents depend on, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? Seeing none.
Just one
Commissioner Baker?
question, Chairman. I'm looking at the, well, first of all, I wanted to ask a question about the, as you're talking about trying to bring back the services, to pre-COVID levels, so to speak. I mean, are we still operating with the same number of vehicles, the same kinds of bus routes? Has that changed as a result?
2022, everything went back into normal. 2021, no, we weren't operating at full capacity,
Right.
because the need wasn't there.
Okay. And I'm looking at, your projected budget. Does that also reflect the up and down or the ebb and flow of the COVID? Because, you're projecting in 2022, $2,343,000, which was relatively a little bit less than 2021's total budget. So is that reflective of you trying to come back to the normalcy that you once had in that area?
Yeah, that's what it's reflecting.
Okay.
This normalcy.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, continue on, Director, please.
2021 accomplishments for Cornerstone. Again, it's our mental health hospital, one of the most challenging places, but we maintain safety with our patients and staff. In 2021, we initialized the digital scanning of records for the past 6 years, which is a big accomplishment. And we did virtual training for opportunities with our staff. Staff improvement was a necessary thing, and we did that in 2021. 2022, we're hoping, we're one of the last few hospitals that are still on paper. We're trying to transition to electrical health records, and then expanding the marketing options for referring facilities. Not a lot of hospitals are referring, like out of county, go further south, other than Middlesex, like Ocean and others, to refer into Cornerstone. So we're going to be focusing on that.
Commissioner Bella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, so I know there's, I guess, a mandate that each county has a facility for this type of service. Is that correct?
The mandate is to make sure the residents have access, not to have the facility, but have access to a facility and having funding available to do so.
Okay. And I know we made some kind of commitment to keep that location going for a while. How much longer is that?
It's 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Any other questions? Seeing none, continue on, please, Director.
Outreach and advocacy, we redesigned the action line workflow to capture operational data. So on the website, you have the chat, you have this and that. It tracks everything. Every call that comes in, we can track now what the services requests are for. Installation of the new CRM system, moving to voice over IT internet protocols. We implement, again, and the live chat is there. In 2022, really doing a deeper dive on the resources under management and how are we really, as a department, utilizing our system so that data can inform decisions on how we're funding overall programs. The action line is working with other divisions to be that information on referral through other departments so that a resident or is not calling 5 other departments, is going to go one entity so that we can provide the resources through the action line and become the repository for human services data. A lot of nonprofits will call us and ask us for our data, our needs assessment, or this and that, so making it more centralized and more accessible.
And even to the action line, there's various languages that are provided to help out individuals who speak Creole, Spanish, etc.
That's a great point, and we're also changing not just the language, we're also trying to change our flyers and all the things to go through the top 3 languages spoken in Union County so that residents can access in the language. And I think one of the biggest things for the action line, and it reflects in the budget requests, we have reached out to Rutgers, Kane, and NGIT, so to provide paid internship opportunities for data scientists and data management to help us with our needs assessment. So instead of going to a consultant, we're going to do it ourselves, but have interns help us to do that.
That's great. Any questions from Commissioner Board? Seeing none, continue, please.
For the social services, in 2021, about 162 of our, not consumers necessarily, our staff receive training and development. creating a contactless case management system. Over 80 of the senior staff got a Myers-Briggs evaluation that they've never had. Increased Medicaid redetermination rate. At one point, we were 54%. We got to 86.9, so that was a huge jump, real focus on concentration. And at this time, it was about 51,940 residents participated in the food stamp program, the SNAP program. It's a 19% increase per year. Right now, the number is over 61,000 people in Union County are on food stamps. So that's, that number is increasing. In 2022, we're looking for our social workers to integrate to a social work model to streamline client services, quality of services. I think empathy, because of COVID, and a little bit of staff burnout is out the door. So we're trying to reintegrate it. Why did you get into social work in the first place, and how you could provide better quality of resources and services to our constituents, our clients. Implemented expedited processing section for the intake to improve timeliness. The volume has skyrocketed, so we have to create a system that we can respond in a timely manner. And then develop leadership for all supervisors, professional development, because what we have learned, a lot of our team members are tunnel vision on providing services, but they haven't had the opportunity to be what it means to a first-time supervisor. How do you manage people? How do you manage conflict, et cetera? So we're really trying to focus on that and then focus on the demand and services.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Baker.
I just want to ask a question about when you talked about your staff. I just wanted to know offhand about your attrition rate. You've had are you experiencing a high attrition rate in your social services staff over there?
Right now, yes, for the past 2 years, because it's a lot of retirements.
Yeah.
A lot. People have been with us for over 25, 30 years. So that's happening. And then we're, on the entry level, we're not attracting people that we need to for keyboard and clerk based on where their salaries are. So we're looking at that.
All right. So as far as your overall staffing is concerned, then because as a result of the attrition of a lot of your older, more experienced staff, you kind of are down a certain number of staff people, or as far as your staffing is concerned.
Right. Currently, we have 39 vacancies in 39 vacancies in social services. 13 we have pending. Those are the lower level clericals that we've done a lot of interviews and we're working to get them on. But the remaining, you're looking at, it's a civil service based division, really. So human services specialists, we're waiting for tests to be called and et cetera for them to be able to move into those positions, so it's not automatic. So we can put a person provisionally, but then the test comes out and they're not even reachable. So we're trying to wait for the test to be called, but then you have social workers and HSS4s and others that is an interview process, so we're able to move forward.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me, because my concern was the time that it takes to fill a position once it's vacant. I was hoping that somewhere in your initiatives that we might be able to look at how we can streamline that process a little bit more. But civil service, being civil service based, that has its own inherent difficulties.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it, Commissioner?
Excuse me?
Good?
Yes, thank you.
County Manager Oman?
Thank you. Commissioner, I just want to touch base on, expand on something Debbie Ann just mentioned about the low end of her salaries, attracting people. Part of her salary and wage line, you'll see an increase.
Yeah.
Some of her starting salaries are in the $30,000 range. She has, she's brought to my attention that some of our employees in her department are customers of need services.
Yeah.
So we're trying to bring up all the starting salaries to the $40,000 range to, help the people who work for us, because it's low.
Yeah. I noticed that there was an increase in the request on the salary line, you know. And I was kind of alluding to that whole, when I said that, I was alluding to all of that too. I noticed
It's
that there
something
was an
that
increase
the
there. Yeah.
directors brought to my attention, and with the board's help, we were trying to raise the floor to help attract people.
To help attract people, but also, you know, showing that the employees that are coming in or have been here, that, you know, we heard you, and we know that you're on the 31,000, and we're going to try to get you to a livable wage.
Well, we need to invest in our people. I mean, that's true. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioner? Sounds good. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assistant Director for being here.
I made the time.
Next up, the Office of the Prosecutor, Prosecutor William Daniel.
That, and then move the thing to here. Did I hit? Again. Am I doing this right?
Good evening, everyone.
Or is it just
Good evening, Prosecutor Daniel.
Mr. Oatman, Chair Granados, Chair Williams. Good to see you all.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, so, do I have to be sworn in?
Right now, no.
Judiciary.
You can go ahead, Prosecutor, and do your presentation,
Yeah,
please.
all right. Again, thank you for the opportunity to present our budget, and I'm honored to be here. I'm very proud to be the leader of this office of approximately, I think, 260 employees, if I have it, 263, I think. It's my first budget presentation, but I believe I have a handle on this, and my team and I sat down and we worked with Mr. Oatman, the county manager, with the assistance of Ms. Taylor and her staff. There, Ms. Taylor, thank you very much. And I believe we've come up with a budget that is within the 2% cap. We sharpened our pencils numerous times, and I anticipate this budget is within cap. However, we're waiting for some additional information from the Attorney General's office for perhaps a couple mandates that may be imposed on us this year. And if that information were to come through, I would certainly reach out to Mr. Oatman before the introduction of the April 4th, the introduction of the budget on April 4th, 2021. So I can start with the slide presentation. That page 2, everybody has this information, right?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not going to read verbatim from the slides. If you have some questions at all, I believe I'd be able to answer your questions. I'll highlight. I took over July 14th, 2021 from former Prosecutor Rotolo. I know that we've had 28 homicides here in Union County in 2021, and 21 of those were solved. We have a 75% solve rate, which I think it's incredible. It's higher than the state average. I'm not exactly sure what that state average is, but my Chief Harvey Barnwell, assures me that we are much higher than the state average. We are extremely busy. Even though we've been working remotely, primarily due to this COVID pandemic, you can see the number of investigations that we've either initiated or had referred to us from other agencies where we serve now as the lead agency. Criminal justice reform detention hearings. We all know criminal justice reform was implemented January 1st, 2017, and we all have heard about detention hearings, issues arising from detention hearings. We're busy with detention hearings. We've had over 1,000 hearings. That was in 2021. Most of them were virtually. However, I believe we're going to be going back to live detention hearings in the near future, provided there's no setbacks with the COVID pandemic. Guns and drugs removed from the street. Okay, my staff prepared this information. Cocaine, 8,574 grams. That comes to 302 pounds. I should have broke it down, 28.35 grams in an ounce, and so we're looking at 302 pounds of cocaine. 3,886 grams of heroin. Now that comes to about 137 pounds of heroin. It's a shame. It's really terrible. Well over half of this weight, I believe, is laced with fentanyl, and we have to get a handle on it, and we're working on it. We're trying with our partners. 3,500 grams of methamphetamine, also known as speed, meth. Again, that's about 135 pounds. 613 firearms removed from the street. We're very proud of that. I wanted to flip to page 3, accomplishments. Again, these accomplishments, these pretty much culminated on my watch, so to speak, but many of these were handed off to me by former Prosecutor Rotolo and former Attorney General Graywall, and they're really, really, miraculous programs, especially in the areas of police reform and transparency. But let's just touch on this gun buyback event. I know that you're familiar with this. This was an accomplishment that, culminated in October of 2021. Who knew we were going to get 520 firearms from the citizens of this county and surrounding counties? Who knew that Elizabeth would come up with about 40? We'd get about 40 out of Elizabeth, 120, I think, out of Plainfield, and, in the 400s out of Westfield. We learned so much from that experiment. And we're going to have another gun buyback coming up, April 23rd. Okay, April 23rd in Springfield. It's not a buyback. I made a mistake. I'll hold that for when we get to 2022. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. So that was a great, great day. There was a lot of effort. Our partners, you were our partner in this, okay? And thank you very much. Sheriff Corvelli's here. He was a partner. The Division of Criminal Justice, we partnered up and we had a great, great day. Policing reform and oh, by the way, that gun buyback, people say, look, was that gun going to be used in a crime? Chances are out of 520 guns turned in, no. But was the gun going to be used by someone within the household, a child or an elderly person who's perhaps going through depression and elects to take their own life, or a child who accidentally takes their own life or the life of another? That's possible. You have to consider all that when we are reaching out to try to get these guns off the street and out of the houses of people that simply just don't know what to do with them. And, okay, so policing reform and transparency. We all know that since George Floyd's murder back on May 25th, 2020, there's been a sea of change in law enforcement. We know that cornerstones of that sea of change are transparency, de-escalation techniques, accountability, and we've been successful in meeting those goals. We have a ways to go. We have a ways to go. But we're getting there. So we under Prosecutor Rotolo's watch, we partnered with the Police Chiefs Association to implement de-escalation techniques, defensive tactical training. Those programs were talked about, but when I came in, I was fortunate enough to be able to actually preside over this training. And with the use of some forfeiture funds that we have for these purposes, we were able to partner with the Union County Chiefs Association, bring in a nationally renowned survival program called Gracie Survival Tactics. I think they're out of Colorado. And they came to the Police Academy and trained, I believe, about 22 to 23 of our members of our 21 law enforcement agencies here in Union County in how to be a trainer. It's a train the trainer program, and for a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks, I think, these Gracie instructors taught these trainers how to use defensive tactics to learn how to use the reasonable amount of force necessary to accomplish objectives of subduing someone or taking someone into custody. It's all about the reasonable use of force. And these trainers are now back, and this rolls over into 2022, they're back in their municipalities training the police officers in those municipalities on how to use these defensive tactics, this use of force. There's a new use of force policy that was implemented by the Attorney General effective January 1st, 2022. For example, and it modifies the methods that officers are to use. Again, the minimal amount of force necessary to achieve the objective. It propounds the use of alternative uses of force prior to unfortunately, the use of deadly force in some cases, including lasers, holds, defensive holds, choke holds are outlawed. We all heard about that all over the news for a while. So this program, it's filtering out into the municipalities. The officers at the municipalities must go for this training. I believe it's twice a year. And this program, this use of force tactics, this de-escalation technique program is now part of the recruits training at the Union County Police Academy. It's mandatory for all new recruits. Body-worn camera. Fortunately, I believe every law enforcement officer in Union County has a body cam now, with the exception of 1 or 2 agencies, and that's due to no fault of the agencies. It's due to, what is it called? The chain. The supply chain, yeah. Axon, I think, is the main provider of these cameras, and they're on back order. But these cameras are the officer, are a good officer's best friend. They've exonerated many officers, on excessive use of force claims, and on the other hand, there are those who are not complying with the law, and fortunately, those cameras prove that to be the case too. So let's see, crisis intervention training. Again, it's a program that my administration inherited, but we've expanded upon crisis intervention training. This is a program designed to train first responders, whether it's law enforcement, fire, ambulance, mental health counselors, on de-escalation techniques when they arrive upon a scene where someone is going through a mental health crisis. As opposed to escalating, there are techniques that are taught to de-escalate, and one of the best friends that a first responder has is time. We just had another, it's 3 times a year, 1 week at a clip. We just had a training class for 42 members of first responders last week. And also, this course is taught at the academy for the recruits that are coming in. And under my watch, we've been able to expand the training. For a while, we're playing catch-up because of COVID. There was no training, I think, at the height of COVID. But yet, we want crisis intervention team training officers, crisis intervention training for at least 20% of the officers on each police department. So there's an officer on every shift to be able to respond to a mental health crisis. Operation Helping Hand. Excellent program. Again, introduced by Attorney General Graywall. Lindsay Rotolo was at the forefront in making sure that this program was implemented here on a county-wide basis, and pretty much what it entails, a thumbnail sketch. Low-level drug offenders who are arrested are given the opportunity to go into treatment, to get treatment, and if they're successful, then their case can be dismissed or perhaps an amended sentence sought for them, a lesser sentence, depending on how they do in the program. And as you can see here, in 2021, about 96% of those individuals who were arrested for these low-level possessory offenses agreed to treatment. An excellent example of how this works is oftentimes you read about, you'll hear about it. There was a narcotics raid down, wherever, at a high narcotics activity intersection. So law enforcement goes out. This was a months-long investigation. It could be 6 months through surveillance techniques, whatever. They get the necessary search warrants to take these people down, these dealers, and they go out and they'll execute the search warrants on these individuals and take them into custody. And then what do? What does law enforcement do? In the morning, they have the pop-up tents set up at that intersection. So these users that would otherwise be buying these illegal substances from these dealers, they show up and lo and behold, the dealers are gone, but the law enforcement officers are there with crisis intervention counselors, with recovery coaches from a great nonprofit entity that we partner with called Prevention Links, and they're there to, help these people that walk up to buy. They're also there to meet with people that may have been arrested for low-level, like I said, possessory offenses. And what do? They refer them through these recovery coaches to treatment services. And it's been a highly successful program, and now we're able to implement this program countywide at the local law enforcement level as well, at the 21 municipalities, people walking off the street. I'm tired. I'm tired of being tired from, just my addiction, and I need some help. And they'll refer someone to Recovery Coach through Prevention Links, this nonprofit entity, right here, located right here in Roselle, across from the police headquarters there. And they're referred for treatment. It's part of the continuing opioid crisis that we're dealing with and attempting to get help for these people from the community. Okay, goals 2022.
Mr. Chair, may I make a quick
Did I
comment?
talk too long? Am I like going way too long?
No, you're good.
If you
No,
want
no,
to
you're
wait
good.
at the end.
1 second, Prosecutor.
Pull you right up.
Oh,
Should I
I'm
wait at the
sorry.
end? Do you
Okay.
want me to wait at
Sorry.
the end?
Look,
No, you can go, Commissioner Jackson. Question.
Mr. Prosecutor, I just wanted to say that operating Helping Hands did not come out of the state. It actually came out of Union County. So Licata, I remember I was a member or chair, and I remember our chairman of the finance, he came to Licata. Do you remember? And we had Operation Helping Hand. And that meeting, we actually he came here and used it as a model.
I have a question, though.
Sure.
And it based on what I read about it, it was actually, I thought it was came out of Bergen County originally when Graywall was the prosecutor up there, and there were 5 pilot counties, and Union County was one of the pilot counties.
Well, I guess we got to do our homework, one of them, but I know that there was a press conference that was in Union County, and he was here. So just when you were saying that it came out of there, we did have a little bit of a nice impact, too.
All right. You know what?
Team effort. Team effort.
Oh,
All right.
that's why I threw you in there.
Team effort. Yep.
Okay, so we
I
have.
didn't say by myself.
It's here. Thank you. I'm going to check. And
Yes, and then we'll compare notes.
You can continue, Prosecutor.
Okay, thank you very much. So here we are, 2022, and there's a few bullet points here. Domestic violence non-fatal strangulation program. This is a program that there was a change in the law recently that enhanced penalties upon someone, that provided for enhanced sentencing penalties upon someone who was found guilty of assaulting a domestic violence victim. Okay, there's a domestic violence relationship there, and someone who might assault the other person, if there were no serious injuries, it was what's called a third-degree offense. If there was injury, I'm not talking about aggravated injuries, serious bodily injury. I'm talking about injury, which could be pain, could be a little cut, a scratch. But this law enhanced penalties if those injuries were caused by strangulation. Okay, pressure applied to the neck, to the I used to know the hyoid here. So there was a change in the law. It's still a third-degree offense, but there's with this under the old law there was a presumption of non-incarceration if the person didn't have any prior convictions on their record. Now the presumption of non-incarceration is gone. So one can be incarcerated. There's no presumption against or in favor. It's a change in the legislation. And to further enable prosecutors to prosecute these cases, many of which are committed out of the presence of witnesses, many of these offenses are committed, one-on-one, so to speak, the assailant and the victim. We've adopted this program where there's now a forensic nurse examiner available to go to, either to come to the Child Advocacy Center to do the examination or perhaps go to the hospital, in all likelihood Trinitas, to do this examination, collect evidence, and provide an opinion as to whether there was trauma to the neck area, non-fatal strangulation, attempted suffocation. So we've rolled out this program, and it's helping us in our efforts to prove these types of cases. Again, I don't know the exact date of the legislation. I think it was passed late last year. And we also with the forensic nurse examiner, we created a training video that we created it with the examiner, a prosecutor who talks about the law sort of the way I'm doing it here, but probably much more clearly. And it's distributed to all of the municipalities, the 21 towns, law enforcement agencies in Union County, and they are viewing this at their roll call training, and they have to, it's mandatory training. I sent out a directive, everybody has to, view this and be familiar with the process to have a forensic nurse examiner notified and come out. Mental health program. We're expanding upon Operation Helping Hand to provide for 24-hour referral ability, and we're hoping to, now that Trinitas has teamed up, or was, I guess, taken over by Robert Wood Johnson, we're hoping that we can get more psychologists and trained nurses from Trinitas to be part of this system for this 24-hour referral. Okay, policing reform expansion. Here we are now. The Attorney General Graywall's policy is in place with the modifications to use of force. They've been there since January 1st, and we're continuing to roll out the training to all of our officers at least twice a year, requiring that they participate in this mandatory use of force training, that they, those officers, those trainers train the officers in defensive tactic techniques as well. Oh, and there's there's one other, I thought I had it in here, I apologize if I don't. We have a body-worn camera training program. In fact, it was mentioned, I'm sorry, it was mentioned in the 2021 accomplishments. Can we go back to that page? Yeah, this is an ongoing program. Okay, we're at page 3, policing, reform, and transparency. Expanded the body-worn camera performance review pilot program to facilitate a system of performance monitoring and early intervention. This program, I believe Chief Saka and then Director Parham, pretty much, Director Parham, he was in our office as the Director of Policy and Planning. Now he's the Director of the Rahway Police Department. They pretty much took the bull by the horn on this, and they implemented a software program that calls for mandatory random reviews of police body cams by superior officers within their departments. And the officer has to review the body cam footage and ascertain whether there were deviations from certain policies and procedures that should be followed. And then if they find a deviation, they take action. Now that action could be simply counseling the officer on what was done wrong, or it could result in further disciplinary action if the officer is way off track and has been given the opportunity to correct their procedures, their training, their methods that they're using out on the street. It's not designed to punish, but rather to educate the officers. And oftentimes we're finding that, well, when there are deficiencies in an officer's performance on the street, oftentimes it's not the officer's fault primarily, but rather the superior officers who haven't been effectively monitoring the officers and engaging in training tactics with the officers. Now this program, it rolled out last year. First when it rolled out, I remember I first got this job, and I think Officer Parham and Saka provided a presentation to the County Police Chiefs Association, and as with many programs, including the body-worn camera program, the first reaction was, this is designed to catch us. It's another effort to catch something wrong. But three towns signed on, including Rahway and a couple others, and now we're up to 12 towns countywide that have signed on to this program, and the others, I'm confident, are just going to fall in line and, adhere to, implement this program within their department. And many of the officers, from what I'm told by the chiefs in the Police Chiefs Association, although they were leery of it, now they welcome it. They welcome the opportunity to be monitored and to to continue their training and comply with their obligations. It's another example of something, change is difficult, but the outcome, like I said, the body-worn camera, it's an officer's best friend right now. Okay, so there's just a couple things here that aren't on here for goals, objectives in 2022. I look back at what we've done and what we have scheduled, and I'm just really, it's kind of amazing. One thing, we just had it February 28th. We had a job fair. Chief Barnwell in my office, he said, let's have a job fair. Let's try for job
Phenomenal. It was awesome.
Okay, who said that? Who said that? I did. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You saw it. Okay, so it started with a couple towns, all right? And we wanted to target the urban communities. We're trying to promote diversity in law enforcement. Am I? Okay, I'm all right.
You're doing a great job, Prosecutor. You really are.
All right, just tell me to
No, you're a
keep
great
quiet.
job. Continue going.
So we started with about 3 towns. Over at Kane University, the president there said, sure, we'll partner with you. Well, it increased within 2 weeks to 44 agencies. And we had, and again, this is my chief who really spearheaded this, Harvey Barnwell. We had well over 1,000 people walk through the hall that it was held at Kane University, 1,000 individuals interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement. And they went up to all these federal, state, county agencies. They were able to sign up for the civil service exam for these civil service towns that day. And we had an entity funded the $35 fee for those that couldn't afford to sign up. And there were well over 150 officers there. The Attorney General was there. I know some of you were there, and it was just a great day. And and other agencies around the state are like, how did you guys do that? Like, we want to do that. And I just thought it was fantastic. I'm proud of what was done there. We have that gun. It's a surrender. It's not a buyback. April 23rd, 2022 in Springfield. There's a church there that we partnered with the county again, and I believe the Sheriff's Department. Surrender. No money involved. You're not getting any money if you bring your guns, but if you want to get rid of a gun, bring it. And this sort of spun off from Westfield when we found all the senior citizens coming to the Westfield spot that day, and they were, we ran out of money, and we were giving out IOUs. And they were like, we don't want the money. We just want to get rid of these guns that we've had in our house for 3 generations. We didn't know how to do it. So it's an experiment. Other prosecutors have said, Bill, let me know how you make out with that because, we might try that. So we're always trying something. Intelligence-driven prosecution. That is amazing. We're relying upon technology to predict where crimes will occur. And if you ever wanted a presentation on that someday, not today, we would be happy to appear and show you what we're doing in that area. And it's working. It's working in some of these inner city areas, from Elizabeth out to Plainfield. It's just really great. Well, there's other things that we're doing, and I think we're working. We're trying to think outside of the box, and we welcome your input on anything that you would like us to partner with you on.
Thank you.
Getting back to the budget, did you want to hear anything about the budget?
We're going to look at it right now. We're going to talk about it right now.
All right. Look, we're within cap, okay? That's all I know. Well, I know more than that. I apologize. I know a lot more than that. Ms. Taylor educated me for weeks on this, and I don't think I'll talk as much next year, probably. So let's talk about it. We're within cap. I don't know if you had a concern about overtime. Anybody? Look, we're asking for $810,000 like we did for 2021, and it looks like we didn't use $810,000 in 2021. But if you wanted to know why, I have an answer why, and it's called COVID-19 primarily, or COVID pandemic. Everybody knows the courts have been shut down. Everybody knows there were no trials in 2021 up until September when we had 1 trial. And we continue with 1 trial at a time for like 6 criminal court judges from September to December. So I think we got 3 trials under our belt in 2021. Now, what does that result in? Not as much overtime, not as many detectives working to prepare these cases for trials, trying to track down witnesses, working with the assistant prosecutors at all different hours of the day to get ready for trial. Now, and frankly, not as much street surveillance work being done as well during the height of the COVID pandemic. So now, we're back in 2022. The courts are reopening. We have 2 trials going at a clip at this point, and I believe we'll be up to 3 shortly, especially with the masking requirement gone. And I believe that, well, I know for a fact, we also, there's an immense backlog. You know, we were down to like 2 sessions of grand jury presentations, actually 1 a week. We didn't have any for a while, then we went to 1, then 2, now we're up to 3 sessions a week. What does that mean? More preparation work, more investigators going out to track down, you know, not only witnesses, but bringing in experts from other outside agencies out of state to prep for trial and what's about to come. Eventually, I think we'll be up to, you know, perhaps 5 or 6 cases going at a time, but we're going to be digging out of this backlog for a long time. And there'll be more street work too, with more law enforcement officers, you know, being out there on the street, engaging in law enforcement activities. So we're asking that you fund us the same amount that you funded us last year. We'll continue to monitor it, and hopefully we won't. Maybe we won't need that much. I just don't know.
So, Prosecutor,
Yeah.
first off, I just want to start off by saying that this ever being your first budget, you did an amazing job. And I think you're the first person we ever had presented to us that asked the question about the budget and then answered the question at the same time we're asking.
right.
So I give you kudos for that, because it was a long explanation for that budget question, but definitely helped us out with that.
Right.
No, but it's truly, you truly hit the ground running, Prosecutor. I know it takes a great leader to make mention of, you know, the past prosecutor, Prosecutor Rutillo, having some of these programs also, but it takes a person then to, you know, grab the ball and run with it. And you truly have done that as a prosecutor in making sure that you're not only making sure these programs excel or be the best programs possible, but also making sure that you're active in the community. We've all seen you plenty of times at our community food drives where you're there not just for pictures, but you're there to actually help out and be involved and talk to community organizations. Director Anderson,
I can't make it Saturday. I know you have one. No, actually.
All right, check off that mark. Okay, I take it back that little point for you.
I knew I'd say too much. I think it's March 5th, actually, the next one. Is it? Am I right, or is it this Saturday?
This week, this Saturday.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I take it back that comment. But okay, thank you, Prosecutor. No, but truly, a tremendous job, not only working within your office of the county, but also working with the different law enforcement agencies across the County of Union. We've only heard high remarks from every single police department across the county and saying how you truly have been proactive, not only working to benefit the law enforcement personnel, but also the residents of the County of Union. So we truly appreciate your leadership in that role. With that said, I'd like to open it up, Commissioner Marbella, then Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with you, and I agree that the office is running well under your leadership, Mr. Prosecutor, and that we look forward to additional programming and good things moving forward, picking up where the past prosecutor left off. I have a question, not necessarily budget related. However, I do hear this from the County Chiefs Association and the chief in Scotch Plains particularly, and that's the non-pursuit laws that are coming up, I guess that are in place right now. The feeling is that they're really tying the hands of law enforcement as far as you know, chasing criminals and tracking down crime and things along those lines. And I know they're organizing as an effort to present to you, if they haven't already, about, you know, taking another look at that at the state level. But that seems to be something that not a lot of people know of. But I think the criminals know about it, and they just kind of driving leisurely in a stolen car out of town, knowing that the police can't chase them. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
Yeah.
and I don't want to spend a lot of time.
No.
It's been a long meeting, and you did a very thorough job with your presentation, but it is a concern.
In less than a minute, that policy, it's an amendment. It goes along with the de-escalation techniques and the use of force policy. It's a directive from the Attorney General, effective January 1st, 2022. And yes, the pursuit policy has been changed drastically. And there's been a lot of reaction by our chiefs throughout the county, the Union County Police Chiefs Association, of which Connolly was the president, and now Chief Greco in Cranford picked up as of a month ago, I think. I encouraged the Chiefs Association to continue their voicing their concerns about this use of force policy. Look, I'm trying to keep up on all this, and there was an article in the Star Ledger 2 weeks ago. Now Attorney General Platkin, it was on the front page, considering changes to use of force policy, including the motor vehicle pursuits. There was a quote at the end where, and I'm not saying anything that's not quoted, he said that it needs to be revisited. That's what he said, or there's cause for concern and it needs to be revisited. Before I came here, I was sitting down with Mayor Brindle in Westfield and the mayor up in Summit. I forget her name.
Mayor Reyes?
Yeah, we met to talk about this very topic. So it's a topic for discussion, and the chiefs are definitely pushing for change, and I think it's on a statewide basis.
Thank you.
It's a topic that's being discussed.
Appreciate your looking.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Chair Williams?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. And as you pointed out, the only budget question I had, you actually answered, as he noted. I just wanted to say I'm really glad that you are expanding the Operation Helping Hands, especially the mental health aspect. And, I think that, what you've said about the de-escalation training continuing and expanding, that's only going to be helpful to us in our county. And I just wanted to say, I went to the police employment fair, and it was fabulous. I hope we can have another one. I know it takes a lot of planning, but, it was really great. And I also want to just point out a couple of other things. When you came to my home city of Plainfield for the Joanne Hollis Resource Center, and you also came 2 weeks ago, you went to Plainfield for Read Across America, and I just wanted to tell you that the feedback that I got, the community folks are very, very pleased that you're so hands-on, that you are so visible, and they were just delighted. And my understanding, I wasn't there, is that the children were also very delighted. So that's all I have. So thank you so much. Thank you,
Get
Chair.
the hat straight. It was like,
And he wore the hat. He wore the hat. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. I just want to also repeat or support the comments that Madam Chair said, because that event with diversity, equity, and inclusion is such a big deal. I was the one who made that comment, just that it was awesome, because everyone I spoke to, every organization, it just wasn't people from public safety, but you also had other community organizations engaged, and that's all we can hope for. So very well done. I also wanted to comment on the Operation Helping Hand and also the gun buyback. Again, all very in-your-face programs, so it's just very encouraging to see that we're keeping the spirit alive, and that under your leadership that we really are in front of people and not just waiting for something bad to happen.
yeah, we're trying to build bridges now.
It's
as
working.
opposed to after, when, I should have built a bridge.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Commissioner Palmieri Mudet?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sort of repeating the same thing, but I was really happy to hear that there is one officer on every shift that is trained in de-escalation, and I hope that just even listening to Director Anderson right before you, that the mental health crisis is only expanding in Union County, and I think it would be a great goal of ours to even increase that number to maybe 2 people on every shift.
Yeah, that's a goal. And some towns do have more than that.
Yeah.
I'll get you some figures.
Yeah, I just think it's a great tool that we have, that we can provide to our residents who are, we obviously have a need. And I also want to mention, because I don't think you did, at the gun surrender, it's also a prescription pill surrender, which I think, as I'm trying to clean my house and I'm finding old pills with young children in my house, it's like, oh my God, thank God I have a place that I know I can bring these in the upcoming weeks. So I think that that's a great service that we're offering as well.
You're absolutely correct. It's firearms, ammo, prescription drugs. I have the flyer. I also have the flyer for the Domestic Violence Symposium coming up on April 28th on great topic at Kane University, domestic violence and mass shootings. Many of these mass shootings are connected to domestic violence. Like over 50% involve some triggering domestic violence incident that leads someone to do what they do. And so now, it's really, look, again, you're on here somewhere. We partnered with the county for this, okay?
We appreciate being a partner, prosecutor. We appreciate it. Commissioner Baker?
I don't have a question per se. I just wanted to comment on the point of the expanded body worn camera performance review pilot. I had a chance to, I know John Parham, and I've had a chance to talk with him about 2 weeks ago. We spoke, and he talked about this, and the point that you made about not necessarily punishing the officer, but training the officer in different methods and techniques of law enforcement and the role and responsibilities of his job. And he gave me a little literature on this, and I think that it's a great tool.
It is.
And I hope that other municipalities buy into this, because it could mean a lot in terms of community relations and how the police are perceived in communities, particularly the urban communities, minority communities. I won't endeavor to try to say any more about it, but I think it's a great training tool, and I hope that other township municipalities buy into it, because John is really big on it, and it seems to be working well in Rawway, because I'm from Rawway.
And it's selling itself now.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. It's selling itself.
Yeah. So
Get on board or you're going to miss the train. That's what I
Yeah. All right. So that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you, Commissioner Baker. Anyone else? That's it.
All right. Well, I'm free to leave. Thank you very much.
If you want to stay longer, you can stay longer, prosecutor. It's not a problem.
I think I might hang around. All right, look, thank you very much, and have a nice evening. And if you have my number, I have yours. Let's just keep talking and just keep working together.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
prosecutor. We
very
truly
much.
appreciate it. Thank you. That was half your presentation already. What are you talking about, Sheriff?
Peter, I know you're dying to talk here. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you very much.
I'd like to call upon the Office of the Sheriff, Sheriff P. Carvelli, and Under Sheriff Dennis Burke, please.
Commissioners, how are you?
Under Sheriff Burke.
I'll begin with a couple of accomplishments we carried out in 2021. Provided logistical and operational support for COVID-19 relief efforts, provided law enforcement services to the city of Elizabeth in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, to include immediate search and rescue, relief, ongoing security at the Oakwood Plaza apartments, which were rendered inhabitable due to the unbelievable flooding. Restored sheriff's sales after 20 months due to COVID.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Established the Sheriff's Office and Division of Corrections to provide for the intake, classification, short-term detention, and release of all offenders in Union County.
There we go.
Entered into an agreement with Essex County to provide for the safe and secure commitment of those offenders, and entered into an agreement with Hudson to provide intense drug and alcohol rehabilitation for custody offenders. A couple of our goals for the current year, 22, provide security and logistical support to Union County trial court systems as virtual and in-person proceedings increase. Increase physical and operational security enhancements at the courthouse complex and satellite posts. Increase sheriff sales and mandated legal services and process. Work with the affected stakeholders at the federal, state, county, and local level to provide necessary law enforcement services as COVID-19 based restrictions and executive orders begin to be lifted. We have our crime scene. We handle all major crime scenes in Union County. Last year we had 270 in 21. I hope that number stays where it is, but as we start to open up, and I feel that number is going to be an increase. We're partnering with Elizabeth with their warrant squad to get a couple folks that we need off the street. And we provide a major training staff at the John H. Stenway Police Academy to train all the new recruits.
Budget? Good.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge also when you made mention before about Hurricane Ida, many of your sheriff officers were not only helping out in securing Oakwood Plaza, but also I know County Manager, Deputy County Manager, and Director Anderson and myself, along with other county individuals, saw firsthand the sheriff officers being there, talking to the kids, bringing it was like balloon animals, I think at one point, providing toys, passing out meals, and it's just a level of dedication that sheriff's department officers have in helping out the community. So I definitely want to acknowledge those officers and your department, yourself, Sheriff, for continuously being a partner in every single community, and on the sheriff also.
Appreciate that.
With that said, any questions from the commission board? All right, so I'll go to my 20 questions. Hold on a second. Let's pull it out. No, I think with that said, just once again, we thank you for not only doing an amazing job at the Sheriff's Department, but also not taking on the correctional facility also, and making sure everything's running smoothly with that facility. And being just, once again, like I said before, somebody who continuously works in the community, Sheriff, appreciate you and your under sheriff team for making sure that you guys are on top when it comes to training, when it comes to making sure you guys are community involved, and when it comes to making sure that everyone feels they can access each one of you. So we appreciate that. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You want to do
You
juvenile?
could continue on, yeah.
Say again?
Go on. Continue on with the corrections now.
Next
I'll
one
give you
is,
some kudos to the Sheriff's Department first. Now I can go corrections.
next one's corrections. I'll give you the 21 accomplishments. We've earned a 100% compliance rating in the state audit. It's our 6th year in a row. Earned national reaccreditation, medical services with National Commission on Correctional Health, NCCHI. Earned 100% compliance on U.S. Department of Justice PREA standards. We had an incident, unfortunately, yesterday. That's all been followed. Expanded our drug and alcohol rehabilitation program. Completed regionalization of county jail operations with Essex. A savings of approximately $19 million to Union County taxpayers. Completed a transition to Union County Sheriff's Office Division of Corrections. They're now under our umbrella with Director Charles. 2022 goals and our objectives is to increase opportunities for offenders to engage in the intensive drug and alcohol rehabilitation program, expand the medical assistance treatment program. I believe we are in order to get a grant from the state that's being utilized right now. Maintain oversight of the regionalization with Essex County. Score 100% again for our annual inspection for the 7th year in a row. Prepare in the 4th quarter for the ACA accreditation, and continue to provide gold standard correction services at a cost savings to Union County.
Any questions from the Commissioner Board? Seeing,
I do
Commissioner
have a
Baker?
question. Yeah. I was, now this is for my own information, Sheriff. You talked about expanding the medical assistance treatment program. Could you explain to me what that is?
Sure. The state, I believe the number was 150,000. With that, we're anticipating hiring 3 individuals to track the inmates as they go to the program, medications, and for when they're released, the same, to help them get back on their feet, secure medications, secure appointments, stuff like that.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Commissioner Baker. Sheriff, continue, please.
And next would be juvenile. The 21 accomplishments, maintained regionalization of juvenile operations with Essex County, saving Union County taxpayers approximately $4 million a year, and operated the alternative to incarceration program, the GPS without incident. That's the bracelet program. Our 22 objectives and goals: continued safe care and confinement of juvenile offenders, in Union County throughout, with agreements with Essex, Bergen, and Morris counties, increase offender participation in the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative to provide non-custodial supervision while awaiting court disposition, and continue to provide gold standards again in the correctional services at a cost savings to the residents of Union County.
Any questions? Seeing none, continue on.
That's the end
That's
of
the
our
last one.
presentation.
Any other comments from Commissioner Barilla?
Just a quick comment. Sheriff, I appreciate you and your staff taking on the additional role of corrections and incorporating Director Charles into your organization and all the staff associated with that. Hard work by you over the last couple of years, the county manager, and all the staff to make that happen. But the benefits are significant and noticed as far as not only the ease of the transition, which was a lot of work went into making it easy, I'm sure, but the people that need to be incarcerated are just in another building, and at tremendous savings to our county residents. So I can't say enough about the good work administration, working with the Sheriff's Department, did to make that happen. So I really appreciate that, and just all the work that the Sheriff's Department does, and you particularly, Sheriff, being around the community and participating as you do, means a lot to the people.
And I heard it before, it's a team effort. The undersheriffs, all the way down to the officers, county manager, you folks, we work together and we accomplish the job. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Commissioner Baker?
Two questions, basically, and it may be for my information only, but how many, since you've absorbed the Department of Corrections into the Sheriff's Department, how many officers have you been able to bring in, correction officers that is, bring into the Sheriff's Department? And are they now Sheriff's officers or are they still correction officers?
They are Sheriff's officers and we retain 50.
50?
50.
That's not, no, that's great. That's really great. Out of about 200, 300 correctional officers?
240.
240, around 240, okay.
Yes.
That's great. That's a pretty good percentage. And I just kind of wanted to know about this, under the juvenile detention aspect, and this is, again, maybe for my information, I may be a little behind the times, but can you tell me what the status of the Juvenile Detention Center is? Is that still a county facility?
I can. Commissioner, we closed the Juvenile Detention Center 3 years ago, I believe.
I am behind
Transferred
the
our
times.
inmates to Essex.
Okay.
Right now, we're using the facility in Linden. It's the Fire Academy. We have that going on. We're also using it for satellite office space and storage for PPE during the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner? Anyone else? That's it. Once again, thank you, Undersheriff and Sheriff, for being here and presenting to us tonight.
Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. With that said, just want to once again make mention that the final budget meeting of the Fiscal Committee and Commissioner Board will be held on Wednesday, March 23rd, starting at 5 p.m. right here in the Commissioner Meeting Room. We'll be hearing from the Administrative Services, Economic Development, Engineering, Public Works and Facilities, Parks and Recreation, Public Safety. With that said, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved,
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.